We are continuing to follow up on this story from the shooting at the Pittsburgh Tree of Life Synagogue. I told you earlier in the show that this shooting left 11 dead, more than 10, 11 dead. I can be more precise, and a certain number injured that appears to be right around 6 at this time. And the setup for our sort of understanding of what's going on here does involve Donald Trump, and you have to understand that Donald Trump has emboldened white supremacy. After Charlottesville, Donald Trump said that there were very fine people on both sides, including the side of the neo-Nazis. And all of the other stories that we've discussed, which I won't bore you with now, but you can certainly find in our archives. This has now led to a group of progressive Jewish leaders who have told Donald Trump that he's simply not welcome in Pittsburgh, the site of this horrible, horrible shooting that took place over the weekend, until he actually denounces white nationalism after the synagogue shooting. Now, Trump spoke earlier today and talked about the evils of anti-Semitism, but there has been a big picture lack of very sort of specific and precise condemnation of movements that we know have been emboldened and catalyzed and coalesced by the Trump presidency. And so 11 members of the Pittsburgh affiliate of Bend the Arc, a Jewish Partnership for Justice, wrote a letter which says, quote, "Our Jewish community is not the only group you have targeted. You have also deliberately undermined the safety of people of color, Muslims, LGBTQ people, and people with disabilities. Yesterday's massacre is not the first act of terror you incited against a minority group in our country." Recall that Donald Trump spoke at the Holocaust Museum in Israel and didn't even mention Jews. Recall that Donald Trump wrote in their guest book how it was great to be there with all of his friends, sort of like it's an amusement park of some kind. So I support these Jewish leaders. Some are already being criticized for, quote, playing politics after a tragedy. And we hear this after many mass shootings and many instances of violence committed with firearms. Politics is what gets us into these messes in many cases. And it is not an argument to say you shouldn't politicize X, Y, or Z. Are we politicizing it in a way that is appropriate given the political circumstances that connect to the act that took place? That is really the question. And that's sort of like, I tend to get away from phrases like, that's offensive, when we're actually trying to argue the merits of policy or of an idea. Let's focus on why it's discriminatory, or why it's unjust, or why it will not have the intended effect that we are looking for. But in the same way that you have a movement which seeks to say, I'm offended isn't an argument, that same movement should be saying politicizing a tragedy isn't a criticism if politics are related to why the tragedy took place. They are saying we aren't going to have the person who we believe is espousing rhetoric that fuels this type of hatred come here immediately after spreading false flag, anti-media, anti-democratic propaganda mixed in with 2 or 3 words about the horrible incident that took place. And in fact, just hours after the synagogue shooting took place, Trump, and right before, by the way, going back to tweeting about the World Series, as Donald Trump was doing yesterday, Trump went right back to attacking the media, saying, quote, "There is great anger in our country, caused in part by inaccurate and even fraudulent reporting of the news. The fake news media, the true enemy of the people, must stop the open and obvious hostility to report the news accurately and fairly. That will do much to put out the flame of anger and outrage, and we will then be able to bring all sides together in peace and harmony. Fake news must end." What about white nationalism must end? What about white supremacy must end? What about the anti-Semitism that we are seeing is in great part fomented by the rhetoric of his administration? And this is why we're having the problem in the first place. It is despicable, and I 100% support the Jewish leaders of Pittsburgh. And in practical terms, Trump as a source of comfort after a tragedy is pretty laughable anyway, as we saw after the killing of American service members in Niger and Donald Trump's completely abortive gong show phone calls to their widows and many of the other stories. It is an absolute and total joke that Trump's presence would in any way provide any kind of comfort in a bad time. So he should stay away. And I agree with the sentiment of the Jewish leaders in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I am really thrilled to tell you that one of today's sponsors is a service that I personally use myself called Simple Habit. And you can get a free trial at simplehabit.com/Pakman. It is really important to take a break from Twitter, to take a break from the inundation of politics and media and Trump and all of the stuff that's going on. And a really great way to take that break and sort of do a mental reset is with Simple Habit, a guided meditation app that just won the 2018 Google Play Award for Best Well-Being App. Perfect for people with busy lifestyles. You just need 5 minutes a day. They have morning meditations, meditations for going to sleep, meditations for dealing with headaches, stress, meditations for athletes, for fighting procrastination, for promoting creativity. They have a huge catalog of hundreds and hundreds of meditations for almost anything you're trying to accomplish. And you can use the app to track all of your progress. They also have music you can listen to that's designed specifically to keep you calm and focused while you're working or reading. Go check it out. You can try it free for 7 days at simplehabit.com/Pakman. I've put a link underneath this video.